Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashraf al-anbiya'i wal mursaleen. Amma ba'du. Inshallah, we don't want to take a long time and bore anyone, but we want to go over Hukm al-Fath al-Imam fi Salah. What is the ruling of correcting the Imam in the Salah? It happens especially with less experienced Imams or people who are in their journey of hifz. And it even happens with the best of us, those who have been Hufadh for many years and have memorized and led Salatul Tarawih for many years. It still happens to all of us, as it happened to the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, as we'll see. So we want to know, what is the ruling? Should he do it? Is it wajib? Is it mustahab? Is it mandub? Is it makruh? Right? And we also want to know, how do we do it? If we are to do it and it's permissible to do it, how do we do it? First off, what is the meaning of fath? Al-fath al-imam, to correct the imam. The word Arabic, al-fath, means like to open up on the imam. Basically to release him from his confusion or mistake that he has made. So say the imam, he's leading the salat, an out loud salah, a salah which is prayed out loud, such as Fajr, or Maghrib, or Isha, or Salatul Jumu'ah, or Salatul Istisqa, or Salatul Eid, an out loud salah. And then he makes a mistake in an ayah or some of the ayat from the Quran, and then someone behind who's praying behind, he corrects the imam. This is what we're talking about. Al-Fath al-Imam could also be if he were to, for example, make an extra rak'ah or not make a rak'ah. He was to fall short or to be deficient in something. But here what we're talking about is how to correct the imam in his recitation. If it's any other thing besides the recitation, the imam goes straight into sajda and he doesn't make ruku'. How do we correct the imam? It's easy. We say, Subhanallah. For the men, we say Subhanallah, and the women, they clap their hands. This is because Salah is built upon khushu'. In fact, al-khushu', or this humility and concentration, is the first characteristic that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave his worshippers in the Quran when he said, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. So the first description that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave of the believers in their salah is khushu'. So the goal for the imam and the people following is to have khushu' in salat. This is one of the first goals. So Allah prohibited us to speak in the salah. And he made it for the imam only to recite and to be out loud. So correcting the imam means to bring to his attention, one of the followers brings to his attention that what he is reading from the surah or the ayah, he made a mistake in it. And this attention that he's bringing to him could be to correct a mistake he made in recitation, or it could be to remind him of an ayah which he is confused about. Maybe he doesn't know what's coming up. It's not just a mistake, but something he is confused. He's kind of hesitant about what is next. Okay, this is a description of the matter. As for the description or the definition that's given by the scholars of fiqh, then they say it is to recite the ayah when the imam stops. Meaning the imam stops and he requests from the people to correct him or to help him out. This is what the fuqaha give a description. To recite the ayah when the imam stops, seeking someone to help him out. He doesn't initiate the correction, right? The imam just makes a mistake, so he says, no, I'm going to correct him, right? Nor does he cut off the imam during his recitation. The imam recites, he says, قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ. Lam yalid wa lam yulad. Right? Allahu samad. Open it up on him immediately. If he says, Qul huwallahu ahad, and he waits, and as we find out, it could be that he's also thinking, he's also contemplating. We've had in this masjid previously, the Imam leading Salah, and he cried in some ayah. But you don't hear him crying because he's trying to hold it in. He doesn't want you to know he's crying. He's up here, you're back there, we're back there. He wants to hold it into himself. So he's reciting in the middle of the surah, and he stops. And we find people trying to help him out, as if he don't know the surah, as if he doesn't know the surah. So it could be that he is contemplating or crying. It's affecting him. And you get to know your Imam, inshallah ta'ala. Maybe you correct him or help him out, and you don't know because it's the first time he's the Imam. But the next time I hear Abdurrahman recite Surah Al-Insan, I know he's going to cry when he starts talking about paradise at the end. Right? So I'm not going to help him out saying he's stuttering. No, he's crying right now. You understand? And you get to know your Imam. But this is the case. To recite the ayat for the Imam when he stops and seeks your help. He seeks the help of the people behind him. They do not initiate it, nor do they cut him off. Right? Because the main point of the salat is khushu'. Is khushu' for the Imam and the follower. And we all know that when you start to correct the Imam, the people, right? Everyone now feels agitated, right? Should I help out? Should I be silent? Right? The Imam, he might be more confused now. And so we have now violated to some extent the khushu' and the salat for ourselves and for others. So we just relax, inshallah ta'ala. If the Imam asks for our help, then we help him. If he stops, and as we see, he can even talk to us and ask us if he really needs it, right? Because this is a matter pertaining to the salah. So, where do we get the fact that correcting the Imam is legislated? We find in the Sunan of Abi Dawood, the hadith of Al-Musawwar ibn Yazid, radiallahu anhu, in which the Prophet, or in which he said, which Musawwar ibn Yazid said, Shahidtu Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam yaqra'u fi salat fataraka shay'an lam yaqra'hu faqala lahu rajulun ya Rasulullah taraktu ayatan kadha wa kadha faqala Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam halla adhkartaniha halla adhkartaniha. So here, Musawwar ibn Yazid, he said, I witnessed the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam reciting in the salah, and so he left something off that he did not recite it. I mean, he missed an ayah. So a man said to him, O Messenger of Allah, you left off such and such an ayah. He said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if you would have not reminded me, or why did you not remind me? Also, Abu Dawood, radiallahu anhu, he brought the hadith of Abdullah ibn Umar, radiallahu anhuma, in which the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam salla salatan faqara'a fiha falubisa alayhi falamma ansarafa qala li Ubay as-salayta ma'ana qala na'am qala fama mana'aka. So the Prophet, and here in Sunan Abi Dawood again, from the hadith of Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma, that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam prayed a prayer and he became confused in it. And so when he turned away from the salat, he said to Ubay ibn Ka'b, radiallahu anhu, were you with us? Did you pray with us? He said, yes. He said, then why, or what prevented you? What prevented you from helping me in what I was confused in? So these two hadiths are an asl. They are a foundation for us in this issue. Both of them being authentic from Sunan Abi Dawood. They are the origin of this issue, showing that it's permissible to correct the Imam. There's another hadith which is found in the Sunan of Abi Dawood from Ali radiallahu anhu, that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was to have said, Ya Ali, la tafta ala al-imam fi salah. In which the Prophet ﷺ told Ali, or was said to have told Ali, O Ali, do not correct the imam in salah. But Ibn Abu Dawood radiallahu anhu, not Ibn Abu Dawood radiallahu anhu, he commented on this hadith regarding the chain. He said, Abu Ishaq lam yasma min al-harith illa arbat al-hadith wa laysa hadha minha. Abu Ishaq, who is in this hadith, in this chain of narration, did not hear from al-harith except 4 hadith, and this hadith is not one of them, showing that this hadith has a weakness in its chain. And Ali radiallahu anhu, he narrated himself that which contradicts this hadith, which is reported about him in Sunan Abi Dawud. It's related in Al-Bayhaqi and his Sunan and the Daraqutni, in which he said, إِذِ اسْتَطْعَمَكُمْ الْإِمَامِ فَأَطْعِمُوهُ. This is a nice wording, right? إِذِ اسْتَطْعَمَكُمْ الْإِمَامِ فَأَطْعِمُوهُ. If the imam seeks food from you, then feed him. Meaning, if he asks for your help in the salah, then help him. Right? If he asks for your help, then help him in the salah. So therefore, the ruling, as we can see from these hadith regarding the issue, is that correcting the imam could be wajib. For example, if it's al-Fatiha. We know al-Fatiha is a rukn of the prayer. It's a pillar of the salah. If it's not correct, the rest of the salah is not correct. So if the imam makes a mistake in al-Fatiha, it must be corrected. It's wajib. Right? But it also could be, correcting the imam could also be mandub. Right? Meaning if the imam is mistaken, it could be recommended if it's in other than al-Fatiha. So he becomes confused, he's not sure, he forgets, and he asks for our help. He asks for the person behind him to help him. And other than the Fatiha, this is according to the Ahnaf. We're going to talk about the positions of the 4 imams. The Ahnaf say, in other than al-Fatiha, it is not befitting to rush to correct the imam. And it is not befitting for the imam to stand there and seek the help of the people. Right? It's not befitting. It doesn't befit salah that you stand there and wait for the people to help you. Rather, he should go into ruku', or he should pass by that spot which he's having a problem with and recite another ayah or another surah even. So if he's in the middle of Surah Al-Kahf, for example, and he gets confused and he just can't remember, they're saying, move on to Surah Al-Taha, no problem. Right? Move on. It's not a problem. And we'll see some rules regarding this, inshallah, in a little while.
Can I jump? If I don't remember the next ayah, I can go.
You can go to the next ayah. If you don't remember the ayah you're trying to go, you can go to the next ayah. Or you can skip 5 ayah. Or you can go to another surah even. Right? Whatever you're having trouble with, you can skip it. Or you can just say that surah is giving me a problem. Let me go to a whole nother surah. No problem. This is a Sarkhasi from the Ahnaf. As for the Malikis, then Al-Kharshi, he says, it is disliked to correct the imam if he went from one surah to the next. So the imam is in the middle of one surah, and we know there are ayat which are like one another. They're similar to one another. And so you might jump when you get to وَهُوَ الْعَزِيزُ الْحَكِيمُ, you jump to another surah altogether right after that. Right? No problem. If he goes from one surah to another, the Maliki says it's disliked to correct him. But it's permissible if he stops and he seeks your help. It's permissible if he stops and he seeks your help. And other than Al-Fatiha. As for Al-Fatiha, then it's obligatory to correct the imam unrestrictedly. No matter if he asks you or doesn't ask you. You have to correct the imam in Al-Fatiha. As for the Shafi'is, then An-Nawawi, he says it's mustahab. It is recommended to correct the imam. And he mentioned a number of the Sahaba who preferred this opinion, such as Uthman and Ali and Ibn Umar. as we saw a few of them earlier. And then he mentioned a number of tabi'een, and then he mentioned those who disliked it from the Sahaba and the tabi'een as well. As for the Hanbalis, then al-Mardawi, he said, it is for a person to correct the Imam if he is confused. It's for him, meaning it's permissible for him to do so. So we see that the four schools of thought basically are on the position that it's permissible or it's disliked. Right? The Ahnaf, they say, the Imam should not ask for help and the person should not help him. Right? Except for in Al-Fatiha. And we find that the Sahaba, such as Uthman and Ali and Ibn Umar and other than them, as well as the Salaf al-Salih, the Tabi'een and those who came after them, some of them used to recommend to correct the Imam and some of them used to dislike to correct the Imam. And whenever we find these contradictions or seemingly, I don't want to say seemingly contradictions, things that look like they contradict one another, whether it be in a hadith with another hadith or some Sahaba with others, we don't just automatically go and make tarjih. We don't just automatically go and say this one is the stronger opinion over this one. That's not our first result. That's not our first course or our first action. Our first action should be, how can we combine their two statements without getting rid of this one and without getting rid of that one? How can we accept all of them at once without getting rid of any of them? Is there a possible way to understand them to all be accepted, so that I don't get rid of the statement of Ali and accept the statement of Omar instead? So this is what we do. We try to make a gem. We try to combine the two contradictory or seemingly contradictory opinions. So the goal here, by prohibiting a person from, such as the Ahnaf, who prohibit or dislike someone to correct the Imam, then how we take to understand that is to say, it's dislike to rush to correct the Imam. The Imam is reciting, he has not stopped, he has not requested our help, he's just reciting, and we, as soon as he makes a mistake, while he's still reciting the next ayah or the next word, we're correcting him. وَهُوَ الْغَفُورُ الرَّحِيمُ هُوَ الْعَزِيزُ الْوَدُودُ. He's still saying Rahim. He doesn't get the meme out of Rahim, Aziz al-Wadud, or something like this. He's reciting and we want to correct him at the same time. As we'll see that this doesn't benefit the Imam. He probably won't even hear you because he's still talking, right? He's still reciting. So what is meant by the dislike or those who may prohibit to correct the Imam is to rush to correct the Imam in other than Al-Fatiha, or in other than a place where we might be changing the meaning to something which will lead us to kufr. So if Allah talks about punishment, we mention something about mercy. If He mentions something about mercy, we mention something about punishment, right? This type of mistake needs to be corrected, right? This needs to be corrected. And if the Imam made a mistake and he moved on already, he was confused or he forgot and he already moved on, or he continued, whether it be in another surah or later on he skipped a couple ayat, as the brother Muhammad asked about, he skipped an ayat or a few ayat, he already moved on, to go back and correct him now doesn't make any sense. It's not going to benefit us in this issue. It's just going to cause confusion. Because he thinks you're making a correction about the ayat now, and it's from 4 or 5 ayat ago or ayat that he skipped. The Prophet ﷺ, in his encouragement to Ali, in his encouragement to Musawwar ibn Yazid, or that man in the hadith of Musawwar ibn Yazid, his encouragement to Ubay ibn Ka'b to correct the Imam does not mean that it's permissible to correct the This does not mean that you can unrestrictedly correct the imam. The same way the prohibition or the dislike doesn't mean that you can't do it ever. The permission to do it doesn't mean you can do it whenever. There are some rules. So what are the conditions of correcting the imam? First off, not one scholar from the fuqaha has ever said, and Allah knows best, not that we could find, not one scholar has ever said it's permissible to correct the imam regardless. In every surah, in every condition, every mistake, correct the imam. No one has ever said that. Right? So what are the conditions for correcting the imam in the salah? First off, correcting the imam should not be something that takes the imam nor the people praying outside of khushu'. If correcting the imam is going to cause the imam to lose his khushu', is going to cause the people to lose their khushu', then you should not correct the imam, except in al-Fatiha, or what there's a darura, right? If there's a change in a meaning which could lead to kufr. Other than that, if it's going to bother the salah, if it's going to make us agitated, I don't know why he ain't listening to me. I'm telling the ayah. What is he saying? Why isn't he clear? I'm still not getting it. Why don't he be quiet? It's back and forth. He's talking in his head. He's talking in his head. The khushu' is gone from the salah. So if that's going to happen, we should leave it alone. And we know our imams. Some imams, we know that he's not bothered, right? He's not bothered by anything. He's solid. You fix him, he'll fix it, no problem. Some imams, we know that someone coughs in the background and he's confused, right? We know some people are like this. So if it's going to cause a problem in the khushu', it's going to affect the khushu' of the imam or the followers, then we do not correct him unless the imam asks us to correct him, right?
If you change meaning, if you don't change meaning, we try to correct him. He just keep going. So is still salah valid?
We're going to see, inshallah ta'ala. We're going to see. The question is if the imam's recitation changes the meanings and we try to correct him and he keeps going, is our salah valid? Inshallah, we'll see that coming up, inshallah. So, you do not recite the ayah for the imam as long as he is confused. As long as he's trying to figure it out himself, then don't recite it for him. He's still working in his head. You're only adding more confusion to him while he's trying to work it out. Unless he stops, right? Unless he stops and waits for you to help him out. As long as these ayat are not about rahmah being replaced with adhab, and adhab being placed with rahmah, or something which will, as we said, lead to al-kufr. Tayyib. If correcting the imam in salah, in his recitation of al-Fatiha, we've seen that it is wajib. And other than al-Fatiha, it is mustahab. Is there a condition for it being mustahab? Correcting the imam and other than al-Fatiha is mustahab. Is there a condition for that? If he asks us for it, if he asks us for help, right? If he doesn't ask us for help, it's not mustahab to help, right? It's only mustahab to help the imam if he asks us. Meaning, how does he ask us, right? He could ask, right? Or he could just stop and listen and wait for someone, right? And it is disliked if the imam does not stop, or if he moves on and passes that ayah or changes to another surah. It's disliked. So it's wajib if it's in al-Fatiha, it's mustahab if the imam asks us for help, and it's disliked, it's makruh, if he does not ask us and he continues on without asking us. So how do we correct the imam? If he asks us for help, this is the main crux of the matter here, right? Because now we know, it's easy to know, should we or shouldn't we? How do we correct the imam? if someone wants to correct the imam, the very first thing he should do is he should check himself for sincerity. He should make sure that he's being sincere in his correcting the imam, and he's not doing it to show that he's in a process of memorizing, or that he's memorized that surah, or he wants the people to know that I know such and such ayah. So before correcting him, you want to first check yourself to make sure that you're sincere in what you're doing. So that everyone's like, oh, he made a mistake in Baqarah. Mustafa corrected him in Baqarah, mashallah. Mustafa knows page 35 of Al-Baqarah, mashallah. No. You want to make sure that you're sincere first and foremost. Otherwise, this could backfire on you with Allah Azza wa Jal. Secondly, that you correct the imam with rahmah and shafaqah. You correct him with mercy and compassion. Because correcting the imam is to help the imam and is not to discipline him or train him. You need to know this is the ayah. No, it's to help him. We're helping him in salah. We're trying to maintain his khushu', trying to maintain our khushu', and we're not trying to discipline him for not knowing the ayah. So you should do so with mercy and not yell, Allahu Samad, right? And Abdul Hakim, he told me a story that the sheikh, I didn't think of it when I was taking the notes, but now that I'm talking about it, it makes a lot of sense that it fits in right here in this point. That the sheikh he was just with, Mish'al al-Bilhati from Kuwait, that he was with him in Utah. He told a story of a man who wanted to get his daughter married. And the man was someone who recited the Quran very slowly. Meaning, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Malik, like this. So the guy who he wanted to marry him to was Egyptian. And we know Egyptians are famous for Quran, right? And so he thinks this guy doesn't know how to lead. He doesn't know Salah. So he says, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. The Egyptian goes, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. So he goes, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. So he led him through the whole salat like this. Get to the next surah. He led him through that whole surah. So he's thinking this guy doesn't know how to make salah. So the second rakat comes. Same thing. He gets to the surah and he goes, and he recites in a different qira'ah. And he looks back and he told the man, I understand this is going to be difficult for you. It's funny. But the point is, like, you're not going to be able to help fix this because you don't know this qira'ah. This guy is a hafiz of the 10 qira'ah, you know, and he just takes his time and you're rushing him. So we don't want to rush to correct the imam.
So was he jahil? Was he jahil?
Jahil?
Why he was doing that?
He thought he didn't know how to pray. So he was just helping him out. He thought he was miskeen. He was helping him. But the whole time this guy is hafiz of 10 qira'ah. Allah Musta'an.
But who said that then?
Abdul Hakim told the story.
But he's the same Imam who said, no, this time you can't do it.
The Imam looked back. He looked back and told the guy, you're going to have a problem helping me on this one because he's reciting in a different qira'ah.
Yeah.
You know, so you're not going to be able to help me with this. That's going to be hard for you. So when you open on the Imam, you want to have rahmah and shafaqah when you correct him. Because, as we said, you're helping the Imam, you're not disciplining him. Thirdly, most of the time, in established masjids, maybe not in the West, I've never known it to be in the West in any of the masajid here in St. Louis, but I know overseas that the Imams assign someone behind them to correct them if there's a need for that. Usually the muezzin, right? Or in Saudi Arabia, is usually they have one person, like say in Mecca, at the Kaaba, they have one person that's correcting the Imam. No one else should ever correct the imam. There's someone who is standing there, he's ready, that's his job, to correct the imam. So it's not befitting for the person who's following to correct the imam if he knows that there's someone there who has been assigned to or has more capability. So if Abdullah is amongst us, for example, or if we have a sheikh with us, or someone who is more knowledgeable of recitation than us, and this is a problem that we have in the West as well. No one knows how much Haris knows. I don't know how much he memorized. Haris don't know how much I memorized. Fazl don't know how much I memorized. I don't know how much he memorized. We don't know this about one another. And we hide this from one another because a lot of times we're lazy. We might be under the disguise that we're being humble, right? I don't want to tell everybody what I know, but a lot of times we don't know much, right? And so we're quiet about it. Whereas the Prophet ﷺ, when the people would die in the battle and he didn't know, they didn't have enough graves, he would say which one knew more Quran, and they would bury him first. So the Sahaba amongst themselves knew who knew more Quran than others. This is something we should do. We should busy ourselves with one another, reciting the Quran, reviewing the Quran. And if we do this with each other, then we'll know what each other knows. And so if I know Muhammad knows more than me and Muhammad's in the Salah, I'm not going to say anything to the Imam if he makes a mistake or if he requests help, because Muhammad is here and Muhammad can do so. Right? Since we don't have a bunch of Hufaz amongst us who we can appoint someone, you correct them. Right? We don't have that in our small community as they would say in other communities. Thirdly, oh no, this is still secondly, that we have someone. So it's not befitting for a follower to correct the imam if he knows there's someone who is responsible for that. And if he corrects the imam without a need to do so, or without being assigned to do so, and there is someone who is assigned, then his salat could be considered deficient or even batil, even nullified, according to some scholars. If he talks without the need to do so, he knows that Muhammad is in charge of correcting the imam, and Muhammad's here, and he corrects the imam knowing Muhammad is there, then some scholars say his salat is deficient, and some say it is batil, it is nullified, because he spoke in the salat unnecessarily. Fourthly, if the imam did not appoint someone behind him to correct him, then the priority of who should correct him should be those closest to the imam. The one closest to the imam should be here, not someone who is in the back, or if it's Jummah and the rows are full, someone way in the back or on the far ends who his voice is going to be hard to be heard. He should not be correcting the imam, rather the ones who are closest if there is no one appointed. Fifthly, if a person, it is predominant in his mind that the imam is not going to hear him well because of the distance from the imam, or because his voice is soft, or because maybe the air conditioner is blowing. We used to have a big heater here that made a lot of noise, right? Things like this. If something is going on, he doesn't think that the imam is going to hear him, or there's a lot of voices and all he's going to do is add to the confusion, then he should not correct the imam, because his speech in the salah is not beneficial at that point.
Even Fatiha? Even Fatiha?
Even Al-Fatiha. But if it's everybody doing it, if it's far away and no one else did it, that's one thing. But if everyone's doing it, it's just causing a problem, as we'll see, inshallah. Sadisan, sixthly, that an abundance of people correcting the imam causes a confusion Imam with hudu, with calmness, and with gentleness, and with a voice which is clear and heard, not mumbled, right? A voice which is clear and heard. Ninthly, if the mistake is in a word of the ayah, he missed a word or he confused a word, then don't just give him the word, but go back a couple words, or go back maybe to the beginning of the ayah. And chances are, the imam, if he knows that ayah or he knows that surah, if you go back to the beginning of it, once he starts to recite it again, he'll automatically fix his mistake. That the mistake won't repeat itself, right? It'll automatically put him back in the groove of reciting the proper ayah. So correct him by going back a few words or to the beginning of the ayah, and the imam will probably correct it himself. Tenthly, if there are a lot of mistakes in one rak'ah, the imam is making a lot of mistakes, and it becomes apparent that the imam is not very proficient, or that he is nervous because of these mistakes, and he is confused, then it is better to not be super particular or super precise about what the imam is reciting. So a lot of times there's a lot of was and faz and thummas, right? You could say waqala, faqala, thumma qala, or it could just be qala. It doesn't have to be a wa or a fa or a thumma. Then you don't be particular about this. If you realize the imam makes a lot of mistakes, don't say, he says, waqala, faqala. Don't correct him like that. Just let it go. Wa, fa, thumma, it doesn't affect anything here. It's not making a huge mistake. It's not changing the meaning here. Of course, in the tafsir or something like this, but in here it's not changing kufr to iman and iman to kufr or anything like this. Right? So it's better at that point, if he's making a lot of mistakes, to not be so particular about how you correct him. 11thly, that the mistake which is fahish, which is extremely bad, that which changes rahmah to adhab and adhab to rahmah and kufr to iman and so on, then it's obligatory to correct him in every situation, but not necessarily to cause a problem. When the brother of Uthman radiallahu anhu led the salah, he came to Salatul Fajr drunk, and he read Salatul Fajr 4 rak'ah. And in one of those rak'ah, he read Qul ya ayyuhal kafirun. And we say, La a'budu ma ta'budun. He said, A'budu ma ta'budun wa ta'buduna ma a'bud wa, like this.
He was drunk?
Yes.
He was leading salah?
Yes. But he was from someone who was assigned by the government to lead salah. You see what I'm saying? He was a governor, or he was assigned position. He has the right to lead salah. He's drunk though. They did not cause this to be a problem. Afterwards, they told him, you led 4 rak'ah. He said, you went 6. Right? Because he's drunk and he doesn't know what he's doing. So if it's going to cause a problem, right, even in things which are wrong, then you don't cause a problem with that, right? Don't cause a problem, don't cause an uproar. We can talk, we can sit down. Hopefully no imam ever comes here drunk or does anything like this. Anyone who does that amongst us, inshallah, if we ever make a mistake where adhab becomes rahmah, rahmah becomes adhab, or imam becomes kufr, it's easy, inshallah, to sit down with one of us and say, hey, akhi, you said something which was incorrect, right? You were insistent on it, but it was incorrect. But it's not going to violate your salah as long as al-Fatiha, inshallah, is recited. But
His prayer is acceptable though if he drank.
no, salah is not acceptable from someone who's drunk. But that's for the person who's leading. If a person comes out here and he leads salah and he doesn't have wudu, and he knows he doesn't have wudu, but you don't know he doesn't have wudu, If you pray behind him, is your salat acceptable or not? Your salat. If I came and I prayed Maghrib and I didn't have wudu, and I know I didn't have wudu, but I was lazy, I'm just going out there, I don't feel like making wudu, and I led salat for Maghrib, but I knew that, but you didn't know it. Is your salat acceptable? Yes. So if a person's drunk and he leads salat, his salat's not acceptable for him, but your salat is acceptable.
I know he's drunk. How would he accept my salat? I know you are drunk.
Wallahi,
But if I don't know, that's something different.
this is something beyond my capability to answer. However, a jama'ah is important in Islam. We're not just Ahl Sunnah. We abbreviate it because we're lazy. You say, I'm from Ahl Sunnah. But the wording is Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. We're the people of the Sunnah and the congregation. So unity is important in Islam. So in the time of Shaykh al-Albani, rahimahullah, they used to pray Fajr before Fajr came in. They used to use a calculation for the times of prayer and say Fajr comes in 4:07. They would pray. They say 3:47 it comes in, and they would pray at 4. And by the time Fajr's over, by the time they're praying Fajr is over, now Fajr is just now coming in. They say, what do we do? You say, pray with the people, and then when Fajr comes in, go home and pray Fajr. Pray in the congregation with them, and then when you're...
So you go do your own.
Then go home and pray Fajr on your own. Don't cause a problem. Because the Jama'ah in Islam is important. When Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, when Uthman made Hajj, he didn't shorten the prayer at Muzdalifah and Mina and all this during Hajj. He didn't shorten the prayers like the Prophet ﷺ did, like Abu Bakr did, like Umar did, radiallahu anhuma. Uthman lengthened the prayers. He had a reason for doing so, but he lengthened the prayers. And the people complained, how come you're lengthening and doing the full prayer instead of shortening the prayer? And then Abdullah ibn Mas'ud prayed behind him. They asked him, how come you prayed behind him and he lengthened the prayer? And you know that the Prophet ﷺ and Abu Bakr and Umar shortened the prayer. He said, al-khilaf shar. Difference of opinion is evil. Having this difference amongst yourselves is evil. So for example, sometimes we combine the prayer due to rain. Maybe someone comes and says, that's not rain, man. We shouldn't be combining the prayer. And he has a valid fiqh opinion. That for him, it's not enough rain to combine the prayer, right? But he's part of us, right? Then he should pray with us and make our Isha, for example, Nawafil, right? And then when Isha comes in, he prays Isha on his own. But to be different and to show this open opposition and difference with one another is shar. And wallahi, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive me and many brothers back in the days. Allahu alam, if we knew 17, 18 years ago what we know now, Allahu alam, this masjid wouldn't be here. Because we used to have opposition all the time, being young, trying to show people what we know or trying to somehow implement the sunnah that we thought we knew and we didn't know much, right? And so we got into a bunch of khilaf with the people. We could have been patient, you know? And if we'd have been patient, then Allah knows best we might be in charge of Dar es-Salaam, a $5 million building. You see what I'm saying? If we'd have just been patient. Not that we want to be in charge of a building, but I'm saying we could have been in charge of our truly implementing the sunnah in a larger scale, right? But a lot of times we harm ourselves. So we're Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. So if it's going to cause a problem, then you pray behind the Imam, and then you go back and pray your own prayer if you're worried about it, inshallah ta'ala. The 12th point and the final point, inshallah ta'ala, that it is not permissible for the one who is correcting the Imam to correct him except if he is certain of the mistake. Sometimes we think it should be Al-Aziz Al-Hakim, but it's really Aziz Al-Rahim or something like this, and we might correct him. And we ourselves are confused. We ourselves have doubt about the issue, and we correct the Imam. And the Imam might even be right. So do not correct the Imam unless you are 100% sure that it's a mistake from the Imam. And this is what I had to bring. And I hope it was beneficial, inshallah ta'ala. I hope it cleared up more problems than it caused. Any questions?
Yeah, like the one you said, he read 4 rak'ah in Fajr.
No.
So that if I'm sure this person stood up for the third one, I think I can stop at 2 myself. I'll not follow the Imam. Is that
Some people,
Is that like
well, this is a fiqh issue. This is a fiqh issue.
Yeah.
Some people say if the Imam were to stand up for a 5th rak'ah in a 4 rak'ah prayer, or stand up in the 3rd rak'ah in a 2 rak'ah prayer, or a 4th rak'ah for Maghrib, that you don't stand up with the Imam, that you stay in your position and wait for the Imam to join you in tashahhud, and when he gives taslim, you make taslim with him, but you don't stand up for that rak'ah. And some people are of the position, such as Shaykh al-Albani, rahimahullah, that he follows the hadith directly in which the Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّمَا جُعِلَ الْإِمَامِ لِيُتَمَّ بِهِ, that the Imam is meant to be followed. So when the Prophet ﷺ made 2 rak'ah, they gave salams with him. They were confused. Did he forget something, or was the prayer shortened? But they followed him in it. And likewise, Shaykh al-Albani says, if the Imam stands up for the 5th rak'ah, you should correct him. How do you correct him? Say subhanallah, right? You say subhanallah, or the women clap. But if he doesn't and he continues, then you should continue with him, because the Imam is meant to be followed. This is the position of some. But if you're of the position that you should not follow him in the 3rd and the 4th rak'ah, then you just stay sitting in tashahhud until he joins you. And when he joins you for the tashahhud and gives taslim, then you make taslim with him. Because the goal is to be with the Imam, right? The goal is to be with the Imam. Inshallah, no one's going to do that. No one's going to lead 4 rakat for Fajr with us. But as an example, just showing you in history, these things have happened. There's books written on all of these issues. How does someone take the place of the Imam? If the Imam passes gas, or he remembers that he doesn't have wudu, and he needs to leave the Salah, or something happens. There's entire books, hundreds of pages written on this issue. These are things that we need to learn, inshallah ta'ala. This is our Salah, and it's the first thing we'll be asked about on a day of judgment.
So when you correcting the Imam, like the ayah, when you go back to the ayah, this is, you messed up ayatul kursi, right?
Okay.
Shall I begin and end the ayatul kursi to correct him?
Or you can begin. You don't have to go back. Say he messed up in the middle. You could go to that phrase that he messed up on.
Yeah.
You don't have to go all the way back to the beginning, but go back to the beginning of a sensible context. You see, wasiya kursiyuhu samawati wal ard. You know, wasiya. You don't say samawati wal ard. What do you mean samawati wal ard? Go back to somewhere that makes sense to go back to, right? And this will help the Imam. The goal is to help the Imam. If it's only going to cause confusion, then just leave it, because it's not important. The Prophet ﷺ said, read in your salah what's easy for you to read. So if it's easy for me to read 10 ayat from Surah Al-Kahf and then 10 ayat from Surah Al-Taha, no problem. That's what's easy for me. It doesn't violate anything, right? As long as I don't change the meaning. Right? As long as I don't change the meaning from rahmah to adab, adab to rahmah, or say something which is iman, is kufr, iman.
It has happened before in Ramadan, where one of the imams will recite and he'll get stuck somewhere. Somebody will start at the beginning of the ayah, somebody will start right where he got stuck, and then he just gets confused, he doesn't even know what's going on
right
anymore. And he got 3-4 people just...
Right. Well, if someone were to listen to this 45 minutes of it, or 50 minutes of what we've been talking about, they would understand. The person assigned should fix him. If there's no one assigned, then the person closest to him, right? And then it should be done only if he really asks you to do so. It's not obligatory to correct the Imam unless he says something wrong, right? Something that changes the meaning from kufr to iman to kufr adab to rahmah to adab. There's nothing wrong with just going on and moving on, you know. هل أتاك حديث موسى وقال عيسى, and you just move on. What's wrong? I said, well, have you heard the story of Musa? And then I couldn't remember what comes after that. And I say, and then Isa said to Bani Israel, kada wa kada. No problem. I haven't changed the meaning of anything. I haven't had a whole complete meaning either. But this is what Allah made easy for me to do. Is no problem. There's no need to correct the Imam in this position. There's no need to correct him in this situation. If he seeks our help, then we seek it. How do we correct him? We correct him with mercy, with kindness. We correct him with clarity. And those who are closest, those who are assigned, and with a voice that is clear and loud. Right? But if I just say just one word, I'm not helping him. If I say one word in the middle, I'm not helping him. If I say one word at the end, I'm not, you understand? So this is the point. We don't have to even correct him. Sometimes it might not even be the sunnah to correct the imam. Right? If he's not asking for it, then we probably shouldn't do it. We should just let him do his thing, and then he can stop. There was one brother, and we talked about this last week. There's one short brother from Mecca. He was a hafiz of Quran. He was at West Pine many, many years ago. I think his name was Abu Bakr. And I think, Allahu Alam. But in the Salah, he was leading the Salah in Ramadan. And he got confused. He stopped. And pretty much those people there, they weren't Hufaz. None of us were Hufaz or anything. So he was quiet, waiting for us to help him. And he said, like, Al-Aya, Ya Akhwan. You know, he said that. Al-Aya, Ya Akhwan. Somebody to help. Yes, it's permissible. When the Prophet ﷺ led two rak'ah and made taslim for a 4 rak'ah prayer, then they say, was the salat shortened, or did you make a mistake, or did you forget, right? So he said, neither one of them, right? He said, it wasn't shortened, nor did I forget. And he said, no, it wasn't shortened, or did you forget? And he said, is what Dhul Yadayn saying correct? He said, yes, meaning you only made 2 rak'ah. So he stood up and he made 2 rak'ah. What happened in the middle of that salah? He only made 2 rak'ah. Once he realized he made a mistake, he stood up and he made 2 rak'ah. But they were talking in the middle. And it didn't violate the salah.
After Salah, they were talking.
Yeah, but still. Then he got up and prayed 2 rak'ah. So he prayed 2 and he talked and he prayed 2.
And you do the first.
You see what I'm saying? Because this talking was pertaining to the salah. It was pertaining to the maslahah of the salah. So it's permissible. So if I say al-ayah ya ikhwan, or min bidayat al-surah, or min bidayat al-ayah, in order to get you to be like, hey, stop telling from the middle, tell me from the beginning of the surah or the beginning of the ayah to help me out, it's permissible for me to say that, even though that's not Quran. Why? Because it's related to the benefit of the salah itself. You understand? Permissible.
A lot of people, when they say that, man.
Right. But this is why we need to learn. This is why we need to learn, and we need to continue to learn that the Prophet ﷺ spoke in the middle of salah when they were telling him he forgot. Right? Because all he did was stand up and make 2 more rak'ah. He didn't start the prayer over. He didn't make 4 rak'ah after that. Okay, we talked. I got to start over now. You understand? No, they talked. He got up. He made 2 rak'ah. And the talking was pertaining to salah, so it's permissible.
Saying subhanallah is even talking, right? That's
Yes, but that's also dhikr of Allah, glorification of Allah, so it's not a problem, right? Just like if you sneeze, you can say alhamdulillah, but the people shouldn't say yarhamakallah. You see? But you can say alhamdulillah, but they shouldn't say yarhamakallah. That's talking. That's not pertaining to the salah. But alhamdulillah is glorification of Allah, so it's not a problem.
Invalidate his salah if he were to actually say yarhamakallah.
No,
If a person says yarhamakallah, it would invalidate his salah, yes. If he did so forgetfully or out of jahl, out of ignorance, no problem. But if he knew and he still did it, then it would violate his salah.
what about responding to a salam? Somebody enters the salam.
Respond to salams, you respond to the salams by moving your hand like this or like this. But you don't talk in salah. Salams is not part of salah.
this is like this.
Yeah. Someone says salaam alaikum wa rahmatullah, you raise your hand like this or like this.
You raise him. It's not.
Like this. Yeah. This is how the Prophet ﷺ used to respond to the salams in salah. Right? It's permissible. Somebody comes in, you come home, and your wife is praying her sunnahs now, you tell her assalamu alaikum, even though she's praying, and she tells you, like this, no problem. Do some type of gesture with your hand. Yes.
But if you're playing a sunnah and then somebody's trying to exit and then they're trying to tell me a story, what to do next? Like after you finish the prayer, bring the food. Shall I concentrate on what they tell me?
No. No one should tell you what to do next while you're praying your sunnahs. They shouldn't try to talk to you in salah.
Like I'm gone, meet me there. Some people exit while.
No, they shouldn't do that. They should let you pray. And if you have friends like that, tell them. Say, let me pray. Don't bother me with the dunya while I'm alone with my Lord. Right? Inshallah. Anything else? جزاكم الله خيرا. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك